Now, before I start the video, I have one simple question to ask you guys. Is the iPhone 13 mini a good phone to buy in 2023? Well, I think so, and I'm going to show you why. Now, this is a question that has been on my mind because unlike a lot of other people, I love the idea of a smaller, more compact iPhone. Not only did the 13 mini give me a retro feel, but it was also packed with top tier specs that made it one of the best phones within the last 2 years. And when I got a good look at the iPhone 13 mini and used it, I realized that it was a phenomenal phone that wasn't perfect, but it really had a lot of potential. The iPhone 13 has an A15 Bionic chipset that is still powerful enough to handle any app smoothly. It has a beautiful compact size that results in better portability. It has a beautiful display that looks great when using it, and it has a really good build quality that lasted me very well up until this point. And even though there are many great things to be said about the iPhone 13 mini, it's not the best and has given me some problems. There are some software bugs that can really get annoying. The battery isn't the best because they're basically trying to fit it into a smaller frame. And let's be honest, Apple is going to make you want to get a new iPhone. So they're going to make all the other iPhones battery worse, including the 13 mini. And despite these cons, I do believe that there are many people who will like the iPhone 13 mini, and hopefully this video will help you decide whether or not it's right for you. Now, starting with design, the 13 mini has that signature look that is still implemented on the newer iPhone 14, and I really like it since this is a more updated version of the previous iPhone 12, but with a smaller notch. And as you guys can see here, it has that very boxy frame, just like the iPhone 4S, but unlike the iPhone 4S, it does have the updated iPhone screen, so it gives off a very futuristic yet retro look. And besides the minor details implemented, this iPhone looks the exact same as the iPhone 14, from the power button, volume rockers and mute switch, all the way down to the speakers, lightning port, and the back. But looking at its color, the version that I have is green, and I really think that it looks good. Now, looking at the display, the iPhone 13 mini has a 5.4-inch Super Retina XDR display that's pretty much just like the iPhone 12 mini, which means that in terms of display, you're getting a pretty small stature that looks great. Whenever I was scrolling through my phone, it looked very good, everything looked nice, the responsiveness was very precise, and I had no complaints about the overall feel, but the only problem that I had with it was the refresh rate. And even though I'm forever beefing with Apple for putting 60Hz displays on phones that are really expensive, I will say that the 60Hz on this phone does feel really good. But one problem that I did have is that whenever I'm on Eventbrite, I'm scrolling through the app, I peeped that it's lower than 60Hz, like really low. And I'm not going to show you guys because you can't really see it on the screen, but it's definitely like 48Hz or even lower than that, because it really doesn't feel smooth at all. Again, I really do think the 60Hz works fine, but I really do want to see 120, and please bring back the mini series. Now, getting more into the display, the bezels are pretty small. Right here, you can see that they're wrapped nicely around the screen and are much cleaner overall. The notch is very small, so it's not as noticeable when compared to older iPhones. And now when it comes to brightness, the iPhone 13 mini is at 800 nits, which is the exact same as the iPhone 13. And I really noticed the difference when I was outside. I had some trouble seeing the screen whenever I went to work, and I live in LA, so this problem is even bigger because we really don't get any shade. So the sun is just beaming on it. And some of you guys be like, oh, you know, the sun's shining on it, you can't see anyway. But the Galaxy S22 works fine, the Galaxy S22 Plus works fine, and my Galaxy S22 Ultra works fine. So again, they can always brighten the screen. And now when it comes to the size of the 13 mini, I can't really say whether or not you guys will love it or hate it, but I do want to give you some pros and cons so you can know what to look out for. Now, another problem that I had with the iPhone 13 mini is the fact that it still doesn't have a fingerprint sensor. And mind you, I think that Apple has the best facial recognition in the game, but it still would be nice to have multiple ways to unlock my phone, like every other phone in the market. Now, the resolution and viewing experience of the 13 mini's display is an amazing benefit when it comes to enjoying content. I was able to see everything very clearly when watching videos. Playing games on it was as fun as ever, and I wanted to give you guys an idea of what it would look like when I watch something and play a game. Now, the iPhone 13 mini has a 2400 mAh battery that was destined to not be that great. And basically the problem is that Apple tried to make the phone as skinny and as small as possible. But the thing about it is, if you want a really good battery, you have to have a good amount of space to fit a good battery into. And that's really not the case with the 13 mini at all. Like, for example, the iPhone 13 Pro Max, amazing battery. But you know why? It's because the phone is bigger and it's wider. So now you can put a bigger battery that has bigger capacities to make it really good. And it's also because the Apple software isn't really that taxing on the battery. But again, this is too small, too thin. And when it comes to everyday use with the 13 mini, I'll be doing things like writing scripts, watching videos on social media, and basically everything else that the average person would do on their phone. Yeah, I was gaming here and there, but I didn't put too much strain on it because I knew that it was a smaller battery, so gaming was to a minimum. And I'm usually getting 3 to 4 hours of on-screen time a day, and I charge it multiple times a day. I was also using my 13 mini on power saving mode, but most of the time I did use it to the max, and the performance was still pretty subpar. So if you do get the 13 mini, you will need a few charges a day to keep it alive. And if I could give a quick estimate, I would usually say that my battery is on 10% by 3 p.m, which is really bad, but that's the cost of getting a smaller phone. And right now my battery health is at 95%, which hopefully will keep up longer. Previous iPhones are known to have the battery significantly drop after the newer iPhones come out, so hopefully the 13 mini will hold up longer. Now the last thing that I wanted to touch on when it came to the battery was the charging. And if I'm being honest, the charging isn't that great in terms of speed. It would take well over an hour to get to 100%. And besides the slow charging speeds, you'll still have to charge it multiple times a day. Now looking at software, the 13 mini supports iOS 16. And just like on any other iPhone, you have the app drawer that holds and categorizes all your apps. You have the new wallpaper system that is a huge upgrade and feels much smoother on this iPhone. And you have many more minor things that make the phone feel even sleeker. But one thing that I have learned, testing many different phones, is that just because it feels pretty sleek doesn't mean that on a day-to-day basis it'll be reliable. And there were many times where the phone will be getting hot, or even there were some times where it wasn't getting hot, where I would have to restart it, and that was pretty frustrating because there were many instances where I'm on a business meeting or I'm on a business call or I'm really waiting for an important message and my phone would just freeze on me. Just freeze. Now it didn't happen every day, but when it did happen, it happened at the most important times, which was really annoying. But besides the frequent freezes, most of the time the software was very smooth and worked well. It felt just like the 14, and I feel like most of you guys will realize that in terms of software, it's really not that much different from other models. And I also decided to test out some games on the 13 mini. I played Asphalt 9, which is a game that can really test out the chip, and as you can see, it held up really well, and I didn't get any lags while playing. Now the haptics weren't that great if I'm being honest. There were many times where I would have to put my phone on vibrate, but will miss out on some messages because I couldn't hear it. So overall, I would say that they're a downgrade when compared to other phones. And one thing that I wanted to know is that if you do get the 13 mini, you'll have around 4 years of software upgrades. So when it comes to longevity and being able to use it for a very long time, the 13 mini has got you covered. Now something that was very comparable between the 12 mini and the 13 mini was the fact that the speakers were average at best. And again, because it has a smaller stature, there's only so many things that you can do with the 13 mini. And basically the reason I say that is because right here, you can see that the speakers are smaller because, the phone is smaller. The speakers are smaller and there are less holes than any other iPhone. So it basically comes with the territory. And even though the speakers are smaller, I still use them frequently. I tested out how they sounded when playing music. And if I'm being honest, the quality is good, but the loudness isn't the greatest when the volume gets to the max. I also tested out my 13 mini as my alarm, and I was really surprised when I was able to wake up from it. I didn't really have to set multiple alarms, and I didn't have to worry about missing important notifications whenever I turned on my ringer. And right here, I'm going to give you guys an idea of how the speakers sound.
Drifting like Lou Williams. Bouncy aggressive for the 5 starters. Exchange for the Celtics here 3.5 minutes in. Kobe again, this time for 3. Took a step or two there at the free throw line. Kobe back and drills for 3.
Now the iPhone 13 mini has a 12 megapixel main camera along with a 12 megapixel front and 12 megapixel ultra wide. And based on my usage since I got the phone, I would say that the pictures look amazing. Starting with the zoom modes, the 13 mini has a couple of different zoom modes, and of course the quality gets dumbed down a bit once you get to the ultra wide, but I found all the modes to be great when compared to other smartphones. The shutter speed is damn near non-existent. I decided to test it out by shooting moving cars, and as you can see right here, the camera was able to capture most cars beautifully no matter how fast they were going, so I was pretty satisfied. But it was a totally different story when the nighttime came around and the camera shifted into night mode. Like right here, you can see that whenever I try to snap a flick in night mode, it takes extremely long, and I had to hold the camera extremely still, so hopefully this improves in the future. And the next thing that I want to do is show you guys how the camera performed in different environments, and the first environment is the daytime. Now looking at the outside photos, we can see that they have a really great shadow of depth whenever I'm taking pictures of myself, along with a nice blur, and this is scaled all the way up once I use portrait mode that Apple has always been good at. I also took some photos of random street objects, the sky, and different aspects of nature, and I can honestly say that the 13 mini held up very well in these environments, and I'm really impressed. Now in a night setting, I would pretty much say that everything looked good, the camera will automatically switch to night mode, and once I snap the shot, it will basically brighten up everything in the photo so that I can see very clearly. Again, it looks really good, and the only complaint that I have is the shutter speed whenever it goes into night mode. Now, taking a look at inside photos, the 13 mini was able to capture everything very nice, and I found the pictures to be slightly more detailed than the 12 in terms of sharpness. Even when taking selfies, you can see how the camera handles already good lighting to produce an overall nicely taken photo. My skin tone looked really good, and the sharpness was at its peak. Now, when it comes to shooting video, the 13 mini is easily one of the best older iPhones that you can buy in this price range. You have many different modes and frame rates to choose from, but I prefer shooting my videos in 4K at 30 frames per second because not only does it look good in 4K, but the 30 frames makes it look smooth, but not as smooth as 60 frames would. The video stabilization was out of this world. I would shoot videos with my phone, so whenever I'm shooting my subject, I can use everything handheld and the movements will be very smooth, which was pretty impressive. And for fun, I decided to try out the stabilization to the max, and if I'm being honest, it still holds up very well and you'll be very satisfied with the camera. So all in all, I would definitely say that the iPhone 13 mini has a really great video camera that will give you some really good shots. And I think that it does really well for everyone. So if you want to shoot content or you just want a really good video camera, the 13 mini has got you covered. And also, here's some extra videos that I was able to get. Here's the final question. Is the iPhone 13 mini a good phone to buy in 2023? Well, I think that the iPhone 13 mini is a great phone to buy, especially since it's not that expensive. So if you're someone who doesn't want to spend over 800 bucks to get a good iPhone, the 13 mini is a perfect phone to get. It has a great battery that can last you all day. It has a nice display that is the same as the newer iPhones. It has a great build quality that lasted me nicely up until this point, and it supports the latest version of iOS, so it'll feel even more up to date. And if you're someone who does prefer the 13 mini, it's definitely a phone that you'll be satisfied with, and it's also cheaper than the 14, so that's an added benefit. But there it is, my review on the iPhone 13 mini. Now let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the video. Right here you can see, let me see, right here I'm using some new audio, and I kind of want to show my face more. I want to get more comfortable in the camera, and you know, it'll gradually get better over time, but I think this is a great start. You know, I just want to make the best videos possible while also giving a more personal feel, if that makes sense. And I feel like, you know, me showing my face more can help out with that. But that's the end of the video, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Have a beautiful day and hope your 2023 is going great.